want to know how to find it. Seek it out when they hide it. You know it's in the bag when it's an easy grab. But come on, take a chance now. So go, geocache, geocache. And if you need help, we're right there in a flash. If you got a question, just call in and ask. Uncover the stash on the Geocaching Podcast. The Geocaching Podcast.
Welcome to episode 305, recorded live on June 5th, 2013. I'm your host, Daryl W4 with
Head Hard Hat.
You can join our live chat room and video stream and watch us as we record this episode live and participate with other listeners. That can be found at www.geocachingpodcast.com/live. Our voicemail line is 630-31-VOICE. Find us on Twitter at geocachingpodcast.com/Twitter and Facebook at geocachingpodcast.com/Facebook. This episode is brought to you by listeners like you. Well, welcome back, Head Hard Hat. Have you recovered from your Geo Woodstock trip yet?
Oh, I'll tell you what. You know, there's only 3 words that I want to say, and do it again! It was really, really cool. I had so much fun at Geo Woodstock. Getting there, driving with the bear, throwing them in front of alligators, seeing if they bite. It's really a lot of fun. But no, I had a great time. We had a blast going there, coming back. We got to see a lot of really cool sights. Matter of fact, you know, it's one of those things, and Daryl, you can identify with this as well. Unfortunately, when we go to an event like Geo Woodstock, we go there to work. It's one of those things, we're doing stuff for the shows, we're promoting, we're doing things, and to be honest, I really kind of wish I would have been able to, just kind of kick back like everybody else, do the sites, get to experience all the different things of Geo Woodstock. I mean, I actually went through the entire event and never saw an alligator in the wild. Now, Dave, he actually went an hour before, since we had to get there early. He went there an hour before everybody else showed up. He got pictures of gators and wild birds and all the cool things that are around there. I kind of wish that I could have done that, so I got a couple of regrets. But then on the flip side, I got to meet all the fans and get to meet everybody there and have such a great time. So, yeah, you got to, that's showbiz. That's how things go. Let's see, this weekend coming up, yes, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, it's hurricane season, and we've got a tropical storm going right up the East Coast. And I'm going to be leaving for Michigan on Friday. Got some family events to do a flyby. And just going to get out of North Carolina before the big wind comes a-blowing. So I hope to get some geocaches because I haven't been up that way in a while. Hopefully there's some new stuff to go that way. So, yeah, it's going to be a good 12-mile ride or 12-hour ride going up and 12-hour coming back, but all part of the fun. Daryl, how about yourself? What kind of mischief did you get into?
Well, I actually got a couple of first-to-finds Tuesday while at work. It just so happened I was looking for a quick little break as the servers were doing their thing, and right then they just happened to publish 2 caches about a mile and a half from the office. So it's like, I've got to go.
Oh, so, yeah.
Sure enough, got FTF on those 2 and made it back to the office long before the servers were ready to be touched again. So that was pretty cool. And tonight I'm actually running a little bit tight because, well, I was out playing Ingress. I was down in Birmingham, which is right near my apartment. And people noticed that I was there and started posting in comms, I'll meet you there. It's like, cool, okay. So we ended up with, I think it was like 12 level 8 Ingress Enlightened players running around town, turning everything into level 8 portals. So it's just one of those really fun times. We had a blast down there, and I would have been down there a little bit longer, except, I had to come back for the show.
Yeah, there are priorities, but hey, that's what it is when you're an Ingress god.
Exactly.
Awesome.
Geocaching question of the day.
Hey Cachers, I'm Lookout Lisa from Cache Advance, your host for the Geocaching question of the day. Well, I've been caching since 2002, and I've been in the business of geocaching since 2005. Mondays through Thursdays, we ask our followers on Twitter, Facebook, and Google+, a question about geocaching. Well, we recently asked, do you add the exact time to your FTF log in the cache? Well, we found that most of you, nearly 90%, do add the time to your FTF logs. Well, here's what we heard. One said, yes, of course. That's vital info for the second to find, or STF. Yes, there is often strong competition in our area, so it adds to the interest of the race to compare notes if the FTF and the runners-up don't meet at GZ. And another one told us, I put the time to the nearest 5 minutes in all my logs, physical and online. I got in that habit way back when I started, when there weren't as many caches or cachers at the time. I thought it was interesting to see how much I missed meeting someone by, and I keep doing it out of habit. Well, that's a really neat reason to add the time. Well, we really enjoyed hearing about First to Finds, and you can too if you follow us, Cache Advance, on Facebook, Twitter, and Google Plus for the geocaching question of the day. Thanks, and happy caching.
Well, this is our June Cacher Coffee, which is basically just a casual chat about geocaching between geocachers. But this time it's just Head Hard Hat and I, so we could really use some input.
Please call in.
Please. So if you want, call us at that 630-31 voice phone number, and that will get you in. You'll be on hold listening to the show live for a moment. But we'll get you in as soon as we get a little bit of a break. And that's our regular voicemail number as well, so you can always leave us a voicemail any time of the day at 630-31-VOICE.
You know, I have to put one thing. Lisa from Cache Advance had a little note in the chat room, and Daryl, I know you can relate to this, said I had a kitty in and out of my lap while I was recording this today. How many times have we seen Tails?
Yeah, or paws and such climbing up my shoulders. And I'm very happy that they're actually leaving me alone right now.
That's good.
It is. Well, they got fed a little bit late because of my late return home, so they're leaving me home. So that they're leaving me alone because I just finished dinner and are wandering around having some fun. Going to sleep.
Kind of like me after I get done eating pizza.
Yeah, exactly. Well, why don't we move on? Yeah, exactly. Well, why don't we move on to a new app that Panos, the cacher who actually did the logo for the Geocaching podcast, had worked on with a friend, and it's called Mapped, and it's a 99-cent app that he thought that geocachers would be interested in. And he was kind enough to send us some code so that all three of us got the chance to sit down and play with it and enjoy the wonder that is the geocaching, or it's not even geocaching, but just a location app called Mapped. So what were your thoughts on that?
To be honest, I didn't get a chance to play with it. So I'm going to put it all on you,
Oh,
sir.
well.
Somebody didn't send me the
lovely.
code. But I digress.
Oh, I thought I did send that to you as well. Well, it's one of those long email strings, In any case.
So welcome to Live Video, boys and girls, while Daryl tells us a story.
This is when I wish I had the emulator on the machine that's doing the hosting so that we could actually show it on the video version as well. Mm-hmm. But basically, it's a fairly simple app just designed for doing location marking, and at 99 cents it might be a good tool for someone using something like the official geocaching app, which doesn't do any kind of marking whatsoever of any kind of waypoint. So if you're looking to use your phone as a GPS, it's something that you could use. But it does just let you go around, mark places, pick points on the map, and because it's doing the satellite view as an option, I think this is going to be something that's better for a lot of the smartphone users, because right then and there, if they are trying to use it, and rather than using the built-in, take a screenshot of the compass thing, which is what so many people are doing, that just doesn't work well.
Right.
If you're going to have that satellite view map there, it does give you the ability to say, oh, this isn't quite where it should be. Let me slide the map over and get a better point. I still like Geosphere's mapping better, or marking better, because it does do things like averaging, which when you're dealing with something like a smartphone that doesn't have as good a receiver, that is something that's very important. And I haven't had a chance to really dig in enough with Mapped, but it doesn't seem like it has the averaging. And really what I'd like out of any of these apps that I haven't seen is the ability to average over multiple days, so you could pick the point and say, okay, give me another sample here today, or
Right.
even just half a day apart. Just update this with today's chords. I do that quite frequently, but I always do that manually. Just take, here's this chord, average those out, and that's how I end up with my chords for most of my placements.
Now, is this good for something, for example, if you want to quickly mark where your car is or where the trailhead is, that type of thing?
Yeah, exactly. It does do anything you want to do with it. It's just, it's not specifically for geocaching. It's just, I have something I want to mark anywhere. It lets you send those locations easily. So if you're looking for something that might be handy to like ship, via text or something, your location to a friend, this is probably a good little app for that as well.
I can imagine something like that would be very sweet if you're walking out on the trail, you see a potential spot that you want to put a geocache, and you want to quickly mark where it's at. That sounds like a real winner.
Yeah, and for that kind of stuff, I think it could be a really handy app to keep in your phone and your caching tool bag, because you can go through, put down, this looks like a good spot, and don't worry about the location. Export it as a GPX, because that's one of the things that the app does support that's very handy, and then bring that into something like geocaching Swiss Army knife, run it through there and see which ones work best for you, which, just a good way to get a good list of chords that you can potentially use for multi-cache, for other caches. It just gives you a good GPX file that you can use for all kinds of stuff.
Awesome.
Well, you want to get into the feedback that we got this week?
Yeah, James Authors wrote in, perhaps discuss the rules behind the trading of items found in a cache. What is the acceptable to put into a cache container, and what is not? I once found bubblegum. I took that with me as a point towards my CETO score. Could someone invent a game that involves a website, then seed cache containers with game pieces? Business cards? This past weekend, my son and I came across a small cache container that held a $1 bill. It wasn't recently placed, so it wasn't a first-to-find prize. The previous finder of the cache didn't mention seeding the cache with a prize. The container was also small to trade anything, as it was a tube with a $1 folded up with the log. Since my son found the cache, I figured he could be prized with the $1. Was this appropriate etiquette? Really good questions.
Yeah, very good questions. Now, we did do a couple of shows that kind of touch on this. Episode 238, What Not to Do, and 258, Mentoring Geocaches, are some good shows to go back and listen to. But
it's always good to go over stuff like this.
Yeah, we'll touch on it a little bit. One of the things that I wonder is if that bill was actually a Where's George dollar bill, because a lot of times cachers will put those in. They're kind of the original trackables in some ways, because Where's George just lets you put in that serial number and date off of that bill and track its movements around the world. So people were using that before trackables really became popular as something to put into the cache and move around.
Right.
So that could be what that was. So you check that bill, see if it has noted anywhere Where's George dollar, and you can always look it up on the where'sgeorge.com site and see if it's there.
Now, to be on the flip side, I have seen many geocachers actually put money in as swag. So it's just as easy to do that as well. And it could have been just a legitimate, this is the only thing that would fit in, and we'll put something in to make it interesting. And let's face it, who doesn't mind finding money?
Yeah. Well, he did mention that he didn't think it was a trade.
Right.
But it's entirely possible that someone had something interesting in there. We see a lot of little erasers and small, tiny toys that could probably fit into something like that.
Yeah, dollar store stuff.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if someone wanted it and just swapped it out for $1 as well. Even though it probably wasn't. That is another option, is that it was something to be swapped.
Yep.
But in general, if it's like a Where's George dollar, that's okay because it's kind of like a trackable. You probably should, keep it moving. But otherwise, the take something, leave something, I would think would still apply to that.
Sure, absolutely. What about things that are acceptable to put into a cash container and what is not?
Well, certainly no food. So bubblegum is very, very bad.
Yes.
Can we say bad? Yes, we can. It's called bubblegum in the cash.
Yeah.
Even worse are things like nuts. Anything that's food should never appear in a cache. Anything that smells like food should never appear in a cache. And most of that is for the safety of the cache and for the animals, because animals, if they smell something that might be food, including a peanut butter jar that wasn't cleaned as well as you might have thought,
yes,
they will try to get in and get that food. So, reusing food containers can be a little bit tricky.
Yeah.
I generally don't like the idea and don't do it. Once food's been there, I never use it for a cache. But putting food into a cache is a definite no-no.
Yeah, you have to remember an animal's smell capabilities are thousands of times more than humans. And so you may think, well, I put it in the dishwasher, it'll be fine. No. If you've ever gone camping and know what raccoons do to a cooler, yeah, you don't do that.
Or bears. Bears can get into cars if they smell food. So, make sure you don't.
Yeah, not wise.
And the other things that you really don't want to put in there, basically anything that you wouldn't want someone like a toddler to find. We'll say nothing that's not family friendly. That could be knives, that could be fireworks, or adult entertainment items, shall we say.
Yes, I was just going to say, I don't know who's thought that would be a cool thing to put into a family activity sport, but that is not the kind of family activity we want to see. So,
No.
Yeah, don't do that.
Yeah, we've actually run into caches with inappropriate items as such in caches that we've gone and CEO'd as well, and that is the appropriate thing to do. If there's something that shouldn't be in the cache,
take it
like
out.
Food, like items inappropriate for kids, get them out and dispose of them properly as soon as possible.
Yeah, that's... I love to say use common sense, and in most cases, geocachers do use common sense, and unfortunately, it's the few that don't that really kind of rock the boat, and hopefully when they listen to a show like ours, and others that state this type of thing, that they take the hint, and that's what we're just kindly and politely asking you to please do.
Yeah. Now, one of the other points that he had questioned here was whether someone could put promotional items in, things like business cards, or seeding a cache with containers for a different game. And that does get a little bit trickier. Groundspeak doesn't want anything promotional at all in anything. No. Listings, containers, it doesn't matter. They've kind of said it's okay if you're putting like coupons or something in there, as long as the cache isn't about that and it's about a cache. So, coupons, gift cards, that kind of stuff, fine. If you're putting in business cards, if it's like a signature item, that's totally different.
Now, see, I do that.
A lot of people doing that.
Yeah, I actually go through and I actually have had hard hat geocacher and stuff about that, and then I laminate them, and then I take those and put them as signature items. There is absolutely nothing wrong to do that.
Yeah, and I've run into some other people who are game developers, involved in other trades that don't have anything to do with geocaching, but they drop their business cards in there as their, I was here signature item, and that sometimes you're wondering, like, why did you do that? When you get the used car salesman dropping his business cards in the cache, you got to kind of wonder, but that's generally acceptable. I don't necessarily want to be putting my business card out there because I don't necessarily want someone calling me when they find the business card.
Yeah.
But it really depends on what you're doing and what your attitude is toward getting calls.
I think
if you're going to use a business card.
Yeah, a lot of people like collecting certain things. I mean, there's things like wooden nickels, different type of signature items that are really good. And there are people that like I guess one of the hot things out is the geocacher playing cards, that type of thing. All those kind of fall under that category. As long as you want to put in, I was here, you have free reign to make all sorts of creative things. When it comes to it, do I want to know Joe IT Tech? Maybe not. But do I want to know Joe IT Tech as Geocacher Man? Sure. A lot of people collect stuff like that.
Yeah, definitely. Now, the other point in there was on the seed containers or game pieces. And that, if it's seeding, I would say it's not allowed. But if you're putting in something like a Munzie, that generally would be allowed, even though you're not allowed to mention that it's there.
Right.
Because that's just another game piece hidden along with the game piece. So something like we always kind of talk that Gowalla would be awesome if they let you check in at a geocache back when Gowalla actually existed. Yeah, so that would be
at the time. They had the right idea.
Oh, they had a great idea. Just it never panned out for them.
No.
But I think they had probably a better idea than Foursquare did. Just Foursquare ended up getting a little further.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's you get this Coke and Pepsi thing when it comes to geocachers as far as, okay, you've got a geocache here, somebody puts a Munzie in it, is it cool, is it not cool? And from what I get, it's a mixed bag. Some people like it, some people don't. And like Daryl said, it is a game piece. Is it hurting anything? Not really. But again, you got to go by the rules of the listing sites that you place them in, because some listing sites are very much more touchy about such things as others, and what is announced and what is not. So you just have to follow by the rules of the listing sites and go by that.
Well, that gets into another question about cross-listing even, because if you're going to say that the game pieces are not allowed, then in theory cross-listing shouldn't be allowed either, and you can't list a cache on more than one listing service.
Which actually is brought up with that, and one of the things that I did get when I put out my Dragons series, the cross listings, there were a couple in there. I kind of got forced to have a couple in there, but the actual listing sites will say, we would prefer you not to do that. And in the case of geocaching.com, they definitely do not want you to do that, at least not advertising that it's that way. So again, you have to follow what the listing sites prefer and go with what's available to you and what's not, and let the chips fall where they may.
Yeah, as far as a cross listing goes, my thought on that is really I'd prefer not to have the geocaches cross listed. However, in my area, the only listing service that gets any traction at all is geocaching.com. So if I were to list with opencaching.us, it's not going to get hit. I have a couple of caches that never had any logs on it before I archived the cache after 2 years. I listed a couple of caches right away when the service went live, and had probably at least 50 logs on geocaching.com, but not one on opencaching.us.
Yeah.
So if I had hidden those caches with just that listing service, they never would have gotten visited.
Yeah. Now what I ended up doing with mine, except for the fact of geocaching.com, all the other ones, there's a couple of key points that were cross-listed, but the rest of them are multi-listed. So in other words, one on Terra Caching, one's on opencaching.us, one's on opencaching.com, and one on geocaching.com. For all of them except for geocaching.com, there is a reference on the page to a web page. It doesn't say anything else more than that. It says if you want to continue on with the series, go to this web page, and it'll give you more information if you want to follow that way. That's been well received, and that's the only way that other geocachers know that that this is available, and that there are other geocaches in the area that if they go to the other listing sites, then they'll be able to continue on with the series. If not, they're all traditionals. They're all separate of each other, and that gives the ability for them to go out. If they want to continue on, great. If they don't, then you don't. It's as simple as that. So for the other people out there, give us a call in. Let us know if you are interested in discussing more with Daryl and myself. If you do, you can call in to 630-31-VOICE, and we will get you on with the show with the rest of us.
And we actually have a live caller right now. So, Zookman, welcome to the show.
Awesome.
Hello, yes, this is Zookman from the Austin, Texas area, and I'm calling in with something that might be considered a milestone for me, but also has to do with things that are in caches. After 3 years, I finally got around to looking for and finding the Necropolis of Britannia Manor 3 cache here in Austin on its 3rd anniversary. And you might wonder why I took 3 years to get around to looking for it, but, you know, when things are local and you could do it at any time, you never do it sometime. But the final container for that cache is about 8 feet tall, and there were quite a few interesting things inside that.
The actual host was 8 feet tall?
Yeah, the final container. It has a combination lock on the door. You need to punch in a 5-digit code to open the door of it, and then you can actually walk in the cache, and there are several different containers, big lock and locks, and other containers in there that have separate trackables and other types of items in it. And the decorations, the theme of the cache, you can probably guess from the title, Necropolis of Britannia Manor. The theme is somewhat, well, it's a little spooky. I went in the daytime. I would probably not have gone by myself at night, but the theme carries all the way through to the inside of the final location container, and it's very involved, very elaborate, and very well done.
Wow. How many times do you get to say that you actually walked into a geocache?
Yeah, not very often. I've done so many micros, even in the woods, that this was very refreshing.
That is awesome. You said you had a comment about things to put in a cache.
Well, I just said this cache had a lot of room for large items in it, and there were quite a variety of things in there, a lot more than I would see in a cache. I met some cachers on the way. I met them at one of the waypoints. You know, it's a puzzle that you solve to get to this cache that involves several different locations with different stories that are part of the narrative of this thing. And I met them at one point, and we went separate ways. And then they came while I was signing the logbook, so we met again. They were from Germany, and
awesome.
Actually they've been working in Mexico, and they came up to Austin. They came to Austin especially to hunt this cache, and they had a big bag full of trackables. They'd been to Geo Woodstock, and they had quite a few items to trade. But it was a very interesting experience.
Cool. Native Texan's actually in the chat room, and she said that she absolutely loved Necropolis. And the one question she has said in there, and you might be able to know, she said, did they ever replace the quarter machine?
It was working. Yeah, it was working on Saturday. We did find out that you have to read the instructions if you want to use it, because one of the German folks put a quarter in and turned it and didn't get the impression that it was intended to make, so we had to actually read the instructions, and it worked fine after that.
Wow, that is awesome.
Yeah, that is one of those destination caches that I would absolutely love to visit sometime. But after 3 years, is it still holding up well? All the waypoints and everything still in good condition and accessible?
All the waypoints are in good shape. It's quite solvable, and in fact, the instructions that you download from the cache page are written well enough that it really helps you. If you read through it, you can find all the hints that you need. No trouble finding the waypoints, except at one of the waypoints, it's an art museum. They were setting up to do a wedding there, and accessibility to one of the the things that I needed to find was somewhat restricted. I had to be tricky to get to it. But the actual fabric of the cache, of the experience itself, once you get to the last section where you go off on foot into the woods, is starting to show its age a little bit. 3 years out in the elements, there are some things that are starting to deteriorate just a little bit, but it's still quite effective.
Well, I'm going to have to put that on my list.
Yeah, that's one I definitely want to hit. Hopefully some of that aging might actually contribute to the aura of that particular cache.
It does, except on the pieces that are made from styrofoam. They look a little less convincing.
Yeah, that would be a problem, wouldn't it?
Maintenance.
Well, thank you very much for calling in. We'd really love to get some info on the cache, because that's been out there for 3 years. I wanted to hit it since I heard about it the first time, and still can't seem to get out there.
Well, check with the Central Texas Geocachers. There's a Yahoo group, and a lot of people will be willing to help you.
Awesome.
Excellent.
Thank you so much.
Sure. Take care.
All right. Well, that, I think, is actually going to do it for the day.
Boy, that one went quick.
Yeah, another one of the quick shows. But thank you for tuning in, and thank you for subscribing to the Geocaching Podcast. We have many continuing expenses beyond what our sponsors are kind enough to cover. We really appreciate the financial support from our audience, and you can help at geocachingpodcast.com/support. As a thank you, you will be given a link to our Plus feed. Join us each Wednesday at 9:30 p.m. Eastern on geocaching.com/live and watch us record. Our show notes and links to all of the past episodes can be found at geocachingpodcast.com. You can call the voicemail line at 630-31-VOICE anytime to leave us a voicemail.